Yes, bitch, it's a microphone. Do I talk into here?
No, can I talk from here?
Oh.
Do I, idiot? Can I talk from here?
That's just going to be the cold open, because I pressed record right before you did that. I'm not editing that out. That's just how this episode's going to start.
I've already had a couple drinks. I just want to lay back on the couch and talk.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, good. Hi.
Knock, 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 motherfuckers.
Hello. It's me. Open up the door. It's real. It's a non-stop pop of this joke being tired. We've made it on almost every episode.
Knock, knock. Yeah, well, I mean, just 2 episodes ago, we were talking about another knock, knock movie.
Knock at the cabin.
But now, knock, knock. We're the pod people. I'm Matisse Van Rossum. I had a name, I think, but I forgot. This is a mess.
Bitch, you barking up the wrong tree. It's bed sheets.
Monster wants to podcast. there we go.
Excellent. Yeah, hi, I'm Cleveland Mosier, and I'm Eli frothing at the mouth to talk about this movie.
Oh, that's
Okay, that's pretty good.
That's
I'll
a good
give
one.
it to you.
That's a good one.
I thought it was stupid.
It is, but in a good way. Much like this
how some people feel about Eli Roth.
Much like this movie.
Yeah, much like every Eli Roth movie.
Yeah. Well, this was Ben's pick.
This was Ben's pick.
Of course,
This is like a Ben Core movie.
Of course
I
it
will
was.
say.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
You know,
this is a movie. This is a movie for freaks and perverts.
Well, okay, so I picked Knock Knock, which
I
I
agree.
think has the potential to be a future midnight movie classic. Hear me out. Like this
listening.
movie
I'll hear you out,
is
but I'm making a face.
Eli Roth seeing the movie Funny Games by the acclaimed auteur Michelle Haneke and saying, "Oh, I can do that," and then just making the sleaziest, trashiest version of Funny Games imaginable. And I love it for
Which
that.
is saying something, because Funny Games is already pretty sleazy.
Yeah, a different kind. Different brand of sleazy, I would say.
I certainly was not prepared for this movie.
Good.
This is one that completely flew by me. It came out in 2015.
Yep. Very quietly. I don't think it got much of a theatrical release.
No fucking kidding. There's no way they would have been able to put this movie in theaters without giving it an NC-17 rating. I'm pretty confident of that.
Really? Okay.
I
don't think it had that much in it. Like, the dialogue, yeah, but...
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the stuff that is said in this movie is, like, pushing beyond the boundary of just dropping a few F-bombs, you know?
Sure.
Also, multiple pretty graphic sex scenes.
Are they?
Yeah, funny. I think they're funny, but I think they're pretty...
You think they're that graphic? We just see some titties. Do we see much else other than that?
I mean,
I
it
feel
goes
like
on
this
for
is
a
kind
long
of almost
time.
a throwback to like 90s era, like lurid sort of thrillers, sex thrillers.
Yeah.
Like Wild Things and stuff like that, where that does exist.
Indecent
and
Proposal.
They got an R rating and shit like that. So, you know, maybe
Yeah. I mean, this movie certainly feels like it's stuck in, like, the early aughts. Like, there's a lot of uses of, like...
That's Eli Roth,
That's
though.
just Eli Roth, yeah.
That's just Eli Roth, which is why all his best work is in the early to mid 2000s, because he is just like that era distilled, and he never grew out of it.
Here's the thing, though. I feel like every Eli Roth movie is fairly misunderstood because people take it more seriously than they should.
Yes,
because I think this movie is a comedy wearing the clothes of a horror movie, like a home invasion style lurid thriller type of thing.
Yeah,
where it's like at its core it's a comedy movie.
Yes.
Much like his other movies, you know, Cabin Fever is the same way.
Cabin Fever's more obvious about in its comedic tone, but I would say that like
confident.
But like even stuff like Hostel is a comedy as well.
For sure.
And I mean, Eli Roth has a sense of... I mean, he and Quentin Tarantino are friends. There's a lot of the same DNA there. I think Eli Roth is really heavily inspired by Tarantino.
This movie is one of his most misunderstood because, like, you look at like Letterboxd, for example. This movie has like a 2. And, like, I think that's...
It's got, like, a 30-something on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, I think that's a bit harsh because I think he knows exactly what he's doing.
Yeah. I think so, too. I also understand why people don't like it, and I think that there's even an argument to be made for totally understanding it and still not liking it.
Hi, that's me.
I think it's a matter of
Sorry,
it's
guys.
a matter of taste.
Yeah, like I totally get it. Like, yeah, his intent was very clear.
Can we
It just didn't necessarily like land.
can we
for me.
start by explaining what this movie is?
Yes.
Yeah, by all means.
So it stars Keanu Reeves. Fantastic Keanu performance, I must say.
Oh, yeah.
Almost a Nick Cage
Right off the
level
bat, yeah.
performance here.
No, I'll give that. Sure.
It stars Keanu Reeves. They set it up at the beginning that he is like basically the world's coolest and best dad. And he loves his hot Spanish wife and his wonderful children so much. They're rich. He's an architect. She's an artist. He has the perfect life. And his wife and kids are going to be gone for the weekend to a beach vacation. But man, he's got to work. He's got to stay home and work. But man, he sure does love his wife and kids so much. And then he's home working, there's a thunderstorm, and two young women show up on his doorstep asking for shelter from the rain. They got lost, they're trying to get to a party, they ended up in the wrong place, and things start to sort of descend from there, and at that point it becomes basically softcore pornography for about 20 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, it reminds
Cinemax kind of shit.
Yes.
It's the premise itself is in a weird way similar to something like The Strangers, right? Like, why did you choose our family? Because you answered, you know?
Yeah, because you were home.
Yeah. It's these two girls essentially psychologically torturing Keanu Reeves.
And physically torturing.
Yeah, for the remainder of the movie.
Yeah. Well, and also they rape him multiple times. And then treat him like the rapist, because when I say it's softcore porno for 20 minutes, it is literally just an extremely prolonged setup for like a porn. Like these two young
multiple scenes.
Yeah,
It just keeps going.
these two
They
young
play it
hot
out,
girls show
yeah.
up. They're all wet. They need to come inside. Oh, can we dry our clothes? Oh, the Uber's 45 minutes away. Oh, you're a DJ? That's so cool. We're flight attendants, and we love having threesomes. And just like, it just goes on and on and on. And it's like, oh, the Uber shows up. Girls, your clothes are dry. They're naked in the bathroom, having getting all soapy and sudsy.
Did you guys not feel? Sorry, I'm gonna be a bummer, but like, did you guys not feel like it was just like constantly like, hey, do you get the bit? For like multiple scenes, and we're just like there. Just I get the bit.
It goes on a little too long.
You're just doing the same bit over and over. And on top of that, like it comes. Sorry, I didn't like the movie. Like it comes after like a pretty long period of introducing him and his family, where it's also set up. So like this movie essentially has like two setups where like it's like, yeah, I get the joke. Like he loves his family, and it was funny at first. like the stuff with his like the big pictures on the wall.
Oh my god, these huge, high glossy, full color photographs of him and his family.
So many of them.
Just all over the house.
It's an orgy of it. Like it's clearly like it's done, you know, tongue in cheek. There's intent there. Like obviously, it's like no one would actually have that many photos that size in their house.
It's corny.
It's cartoon.
It's caricature of like perfect family.
Yeah, and that's funny, but that keeps being the joke. I don't know, like Cabin Fever, like it's pretty constantly mixing it up. At least, you know, like that.
Cabin Fever's zanier.
Yeah, it's definitely zanier. And here, before like there's any real like action, and I mean like action just in like things happening, right? We have to sit through two setups. Like you've got the family set up, and then these characters coming in, and like before they do anything with him, and it's like it's like 20 fucking minutes of just like them doing the same softcore porn bit, and it's like I got it, it was funny, but it's not funny anymore by the end of it to me.
It's a little bit too long, I think. I think the family setup at the beginning is fine. I think that goes on for as long as it needs to.
Well, I thought it was fine going through it, but then when we get to the second setup.
Well, I mean, you have to set up these two.
Necessity.
You have to spend time setting up these antagonists. I agree. I don't think it has to take as much time.
You were talking about The Strangers a minute ago, a more serious film that requires you to be more invested in the movie because it's not tongue in cheek, and The Strangers has a much shorter setup.
Yeah, but also the villains are not characters; they're masked killers.
Yeah.
There's nothing to characterize them. That's why they are the strangers, right? We don't see their faces. The antagonists, these two young girls, are characters that have to be established. I agree it goes on for too long.
And we should say that the two girls, Belle and Genesis. One of them played by Ana de Armas in an early role by her. I think she's great in this movie.
She's hot in this movie.
I think everybody's good in this movie.
Yeah.
I think all the performances are fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. The actors aren't the problem that I had in this film for sure. Like I think like they're all great, and largely like well enough used too. I think.
Yeah.
My problems are mostly with like the script and pacing.
Yeah, I think my biggest problem with the pacing is the introduction of the two girls. I think you said a second ago their characters, like you have to set up their characters, but like what in that scene is setting up their characters, right? It was mostly just like the flirting stuff. Like we got that they were flirting. We as soon as the door opened, we knew that. Like so, it's not really setting up their characters either.
I think they subtly set some of that stuff up, like how Genesis is a little more dominant, while Belle is kind of more flirty, kind of daddy type of stuff.
The daddy issues and stuff. Yeah, I think it does. I think it does gently set that stuff up for it to be brought way over the top later in the movie. And I think it is important to have a little bit, again, probably not necessarily so much, but have some of them like building the chemistry with Keanu. And also, I think what is important as well is that despite what they spend the rest of the movie telling him, like, he does reject their advances a lot.
Visibly uncomfortable
over
during,
multiple scenes.
The first 20 minutes when they're there.
And I think that's important to keeping his character sympathetic as well, because, like, even though he does eventually succumb, I mean, they do rape him. Like, they do.
Immediately.
He does more
themselves multiple times.
He does more than once say, "No, I'm married, we can't do this," and they are grabbing him and kissing him, and like he is trying to fight, like trying to push them off. Like, if the roles were reversed, there would be no question.
You don't say that part. Like, it's pretty clear.
Like they sexually assault him,
at least.
And like I think I do think it is kind of this, not the sexual assault part, but what is kind of funny is like before that, when they're sort of like starting to come on to him and he keeps moving seats around the living room,
like, touching his shoulder.
He keeps getting up, and then they'll come over and like get on either side of him and like start touching him and stuff, and he's still like trying to be polite, and he'll like get up and move to a different chair.
See, what I love about that is they do play it up like a softcore porno of sorts. But, like, in context, it kind of shows, like, how rapey that stuff really is. Of, like, being aggressively forward, And, like, it's easy to just say, oh, hey, it's softcore. But, like, that's really creepy, sleazy stuff when you think about it. Like,
I mean, yeah, I don't think anybody's ever gonna say that, like, porn narratives are particularly progressive.
I don't think that's that deep. Like, and frankly too, like what does the movie do with that topic? cool. It brought it up. I'm with it. But I don't really know. I don't get too much out of like the punchline there.
I think there is. I think it depends on how you look at it. I think there is kind of this perception, or the more common perception would be like, oh yeah, this is any guy's dream, right? Like two hot young babes show up at his house and they're flight attendants, and so they're gonna be gone and his wife's out of town, and oh, their clothes are wet. Can we take our clothes off and put them in the dryer and wear your nice comfy robes? Like, it is like setting it up as like a male fantasy.
Well, and
then how it goes from that to a nightmare, like, very, very quickly.
Yeah, and I think much like Funny Games. And, like, Funny Games, its whole thing is, like, horror as a genre is exploitative because it's reveling in other people's violence and misery. Like, this movie is taking that idea and, like, putting it to, like, sleaziness in a different way.
Yeah,
where like it has the same kind of core like ideas of like taking this like, oh, this is the male fantasy, and being like, oh, that's kind of fucked up when you think about it.
It's not as I wouldn't say that
it's much dumber.
Yeah,
yes.
it's much clumsier than Funny Games.
For sure, for sure.
The ethos is there though, for sure. I'm not disagreeing with you on that. So after they sleep together, things start falling apart pretty quickly. He wakes up the next morning and is like, oh man, I cheated on my wife last night. Oh damn. He thinks they're gone, goes into the kitchen, and they have made themselves fully at home.
They've just immediately made the biggest breakfast mess.
Yeah, huge breakfast mess. They're
One
fucking
of the girls
pancakes.
Is like slamming the syrup, which I
drinking it straight from the bottle.
Funny.
Yeah. And he just cannot get them to leave.
One of the girl, like one of the girls is like eating out of the dog bowl, like on the table and shit, and they're just like, yeah, there's like mess and food everywhere.
Yeah, I like the dog in this movie.
Yeah, Monkey,
Good little French bulldog. Is that what that is?
I think so. I'm a fan of animals being named other animal names.
Yeah.
Being the owner of a dog named Piglet myself.
Yeah, exactly. A little dog named Monkey is good.
Yeah, very good.
But
nothing bad happens to the dog in this movie either.
No.
Yeah. I mean, they leave with him. They steal him. They're not going to look after that dog.
Yeah, but then the movie ends after that.
Yeah, it does just kind of end. You're right.
The narrative, the story is over.
Yeah.
It's not real life.
Damn, movies aren't real life.
As hard as it may be to believe sometimes.
I don't know, man. That sounds wrong to me.
And as some men might like to fancifully dream of two hot women showing up on his doorstep at night.
It was all a dream.
But it was not a dream.
It was all a dream.
I do think it's funny
Super
that
Nintendo.
At one point Genesis writes on the mirror, "It was not a dream," in lipstick. But then later she's wearing a shirt that says it was all a dream. Which one is it?
I thought it was trite.
Was it all a dream or was it not a dream?
I got kind of mad when I saw that shirt. Like, I didn't think it was funny.
I mean, I think it's funny in the sense that it's fucking tacky.
Yeah.
Like when they start like drawing shit and doing like crude graffiti on all of the pictures and shit in the house, you're like, it's so dumb. It's like, yes, it's fucking adolescent humor.
Yeah.
They write on the kids' picture something like, your dad has AIDS now or something. It's like, it's just the most stupidest, most fucking juvenile humor, but like, that's the point.
You're watching an Eli Roth movie. It's obviously gonna be juvenile and like dumb.
Yes,
you just have to accept that.
Eli Roth forever has a 15-year-old boy's sense of humor.
The thing is, like, that's great. Honestly, like, good, go Eli Roth. And you know what?
I mean, I don't know about that.
Maybe not. Maybe that's a little far. But anyway, like, I'm with that all. If anything, my biggest complaint was just like, I found the first half and into the second part, like, kind of boring. I felt like it didn't go far enough with all, like, the immature, like, silly shit. Like, they draw on the fucking portraits, okay? Like they draw dicks on things. That's kind of funny. What else you got?
I think
that's it.
Keanu Reeves' performance saves a lot of that, and 2, it helps that like things escalate so much in the second half.
The fact that it needs saving at all, but yeah, like I see where you're coming from, and I do agree. Like Keanu Reeves' performance is
and I mean, in a couple
perfect pick. You couldn't have picked someone better.
In a couple of particular scenes towards the end of the movie, like it goes so
off the fucking rails,
over the top,
off the fucking rails. Holy shit!
That like I'm kind of glad that it was made. It feels weird to say more restrained earlier, but like kinda. There's some restraint in the context of the film because it does just like hit the fan in a couple of like really crazy scenes.
Yeah.
Well, I think Eli Roth is bad at restraint. Then that's what I think.
I would agree. I mean, but
like, and I think he should have just like. I think that there could have been like some creative or fun things you could have done early on for setup, whether I don't care what, or just like cut it down a little bit, because like if it's all kind of it's a goofy kind of movie and we're not really supposed to care because it's all kind of fake and chintzy, then like why are we spending so much time setting up these characters I'm not supposed to care about?
I mean, I don't think that we're not supposed to care, and like I don't even know if like there's. Like, it's a goofy movie, but also, like, it's pretty fucking uncomfortable, too.
Yeah.
Intentionally so, but I don't feel like you can just write it off as, like, goofy, not supposed to care.
I think Eli Roth, again, knew what he was doing here. Like, it's supposed to be campy on one, level, but at the same time, like, you need a certain level of character development and like dwelling on the characters to make it feel like truly sadistic.
Yeah,
which kind of is the core of this film.
Well, I guess like for me, like the other reasons I kind of got that sense of like not really caring was like some of like the filmmaking moments as well, where I mean, one again, like kind of decorating the house like that, making it such a cartoon of a thing is like, okay, well, this is very silly and fake or whatever, which is fine. I'm here for that. Keep it coming. But then you get like moments where when the two characters first appear on the doorstep, like the audio, like the rain sound, just kind of like
well that is just a straight up fucking mistake.
Yeah,
that's just a straight up editing
like
mistake.
where they just didn't care and like to catch that, like they didn't notice that. Like, how do you miss that? Like the audio fucks up there.
I mean, it's big oversight, but like it's one moment in the movie.
I don't think you can condemn the entire filmmaking of the movie based on that mistake.
I had more. Like I wasn't about to, but like my point is that like there's a number of moments like that. Not the one, no. But
I mean, what other moments
honestly,
like that?
Cleveland, I think you're looking at this movie from the wrong perspective. Like, look at this movie from, like, the Room perspective. Like, a perspective of pure
like,
camp.
Tommy Wiseau, like, notoriously didn't know what he was doing. Same with Troll 2, same with other, like, or Neil Breen. Like, those guys are divas that think they're making good work. Like, this is a tired conversation.
Is pure camp. And, like, I think the thing is with it, like, you can't dwell too much on the specific, like, details too much, because, like, at its core, it's supposed to be a campy ride where, like, it knows what it's doing. While it's not direct in the wink, wink, nudge, nudge, which I kind of prefer.
I mean, me too. Like, it does,
like,
it does play
it self-awareness.
It does, yeah, it does play it seriously. I mean, I'll split the difference here. Like, I agree with Cleveland that it, like, I don't think it goes nearly far enough in the direction of something like The Room or Troll 2, just like absolute disasters that are made with complete sincerity. Because one, there is a large degree of self-awareness here that is just Eli Roth, but also I don't think this is a badly made movie. Like,
No, that's the thing.
The example that Cleveland pointed out, where that we all were looking at each other like, what the fuck, where they're on the doorstep talking to Keanu, and at one point the audio of the rain in the background just gets way higher. Like, not like it just cuts. Yeah, and like, that is a glaring editing mistake.
Yeah, that's just an error.
I truly do not know how that got into the final cut, but outside of that, like, I think the movie's pretty well made. I think it does a lot of, like, fun, like, filmic things. Like, the motif of, like, the camera taking the same route through the house multiple times in the movie and seeing, like, the gradual state that it's descending into throughout the course of the movie. Like, stuff like that. All the actors are really good. They're all taking it seriously. So there's that. But also, while it is a very campy movie, the subject matter is, like, so dark and so uncomfortable that I don't think it can be totally read on a pure camp perspective either. And that's why I can also see why a lot of people would not like this movie, even if they get it. Like, I had a great time watching this because of how fucking crazy the movie is. Don't know if I would really want to go back and watch it again. Outside of the setting of, like, being with particular people and being like, oh my god, you guys gotta see this movie.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I feel like Funny Games is a very similar thing. Like, that's a movie you definitely don't feel like watching twice because it's so
brutal,
sadistic and brutal. And, like, I feel like in the same way, this movie is the same type of thing, but it's also making light of that type of thing, which is also kind of bordering the line, I guess you could say. And, like, I could understand why people would find that offensive or not like that.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's the kind of stuff, it's like, why are you trying to make light of it? You know? Like, does it need... What we haven't mentioned, for people who have not seen this movie, a key component is the way that they sort of trap Keanu so he can't, like, call the police or anything, is they tell him, psych, we're actually 15 years old. So you just had sex with 2 underage girls. You're a pedophile. If you call the cops, then we'll tell them that you raped us. And, like, that is somewhere that most movies would not go as, like, such a central thing. And, like, after they come back and break into the house later and, like, tie Keanu up, there's the whole scene with Ana de Armas, like, comes in wearing his, like, young daughter's, like, school, like, outfit and her underwear and the whole daddy thing, and, like, she rapes him again in that scene, and it's like,
they stuff his mouth with...
Yeah, and she's, like, barking like a dog, which is funny, but also, like, it's so fucking skeezy, and...
It's uncomfortable.
It's extremely uncomfortable, and it's like, I can totally understand, and I sort of, like, put myself into this camp as well, where it's like, I don't really want to watch that again. Like, it was a fucking hell of an experience.
Yeah,
and there's some really funny stuff that we haven't talked about yet.
Yes,
but there's stuff like that, and it's just like, yikes, man.
But, like, the thing is like, for me, watching that scene as someone who didn't have, like, an amazing time watching this movie.
And that's another reason why I think if this got into theaters, it would probably be NC-17.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, that's fair. That's fair. For me, like, that scene was more just like, well, not really sold on a direction to go, right? Because, like, it's trying to kind of do both at the same time. It's trying to sort of juggle, like, discomfort and also comedy. And I was just sort of left somewhere in the middle. Like, I didn't really feel, like, that uncomfortable with the scene. Like, it is a subject matter that gets talked about a lot in a lot of circles. And, like, it is a heavy subject matter. And it is an uncomfortable issue.
It's talked about, but, like, you don't see it on on film very often, which is, I think, kind of the whole is kind of the point.
But it gets talked about in film a lot, and like it is a subject matter that is broached a lot in film,
right?
Like,
but always very seriously, and like Ben pointed out, like this is obviously doing it half as a joke.
Yeah,
and I think that it is intentionally trying to make you emotionally confused, like should I find this funny or should I be disturbed? And I think the answer is both, but I think that it's totally fair that the outcome of that is you don't really feel anything about it because you land in the middle. And I'm kind of the same way. Like I find
it's fine.
I find myself oscillating, like
I'm
between
totally
it's funny and it's not.
And like here's the thing too. I don't hold anything against this movie. I didn't have a good time watching it, but I don't think there's anything wrong with enjoying this movie or the fact that this movie exists. I think it's cool when directors try to combine, different emotions and feelings and try and, experiment with different ways to make us feel. That's why we watch movies. And I'll never discourage trying to mix different flavors together. Yeah. Right? Discomfort and comedy or whatever. Like awkward comedy is my fucking jam. I love Peep Show. I love all kinds of like the stuff that goes like really hard into like the awkward shit. I'm super here for it. I don't think Creepshow executes on like that discomfort and comedy.
Well, this movie goes beyond awkward. Is the thing?
No, absolutely.
Like, it's not awkward, uncomfortable.
No, it's true. And
it is, but to another level.
You're combining like some really different flavors in a to use Keanu Reeves's metaphor in a mixed drink, right? And I think
DJing's like bartending.
Yeah. You
got the right ingredients. You just got to find the right blend.
And you know what? So is movie making.
For sure.
So is movie making.
For sure.
To take that really dumb thing seriously, like that comment seriously, like, and I think that the blend here just doesn't do anything for me. Like I think it just kind of leaves me in the middle. Yeah, and
that doesn't surprise.
There's nothing wrong with enjoying this movie. And like they come in, they draw dicks all over the art. That's very funny to me. I draw dicks all over my own art all the time. Like that's fine.
Them continuing to draw dicks on his wife's statues.
Yeah,
and
I
is
love
really funny.
how juvenile and sadistic the two girls are in this.
Yeah, I love their juvenile humor too. Because I mean, it is like they're teenagers, right? So they would have like the most juvenile. Well, you're making a face. So we'll get to that. But I do think that this movie. And I'm not surprised that Cleveland clicked with this movie the least out of the three of us. It falls into the same camp way more so than something like The Room or Troll 2. It falls into the camp of The Greasy Strangler.
Yes.
Where like it's a different kind of thing, but the goal is to make you feel super uncomfortable, and it does that. Very different method than The Greasy Strangler, but
I think you're right.
And that's why it's and similarly to The Greasy Strangler, I'm in a position where I think it's cool that this movie exists, and I'm glad I saw it. But is this a movie that I ever really want to come back to? I don't know about that. If we're carrying the bartending, the drink metaphor,
keep going, run
forward.
with it, dude.
What this reminds me of is something like a fucking like a spicy Bloody Mary, one of the like challenge Bloody Marys. Maybe this is a particularly Midwestern thing, but like
a Bloody Mary with a fucking pizza.
Yeah, or one time a buddy when we lived
Bloody Mary with chocolate. It's like you didn't.
No. We're talking is like. When we still lived in Milwaukee, one of my buddies and I went to brunch one morning, and he's very much a masochist, and he likes to eat food that is painful. And this place had a challenge Bloody Mary that if you finish it, it's half off, and it's like a muddled habanero pepper in the bottom, like sriracha vodka. The rim is that there's a cayenne pepper rim Just like something that's designed to...
It's mean.
Yeah, it's mean. But it's like, drink it because it'll get you drunk, and if you do, you get it, you don't have to pay for it, you know?
It'll be
it's
painful,
like,
though.
But it'll be painful, and you'll have a bad time, but the endorphins of the adrenaline will make it fun, right? And that's the type of movie that this is. Where, like, it's painful, it's a bad time, but also it's like you kind of have fun in the experience of it.
See, I think the painful elements of this movie are so critical to make the campy parts funnier.
Yeah, because it's already kind of gearing you to like want to laugh in discomfort, which I found myself doing a lot in this movie. I do think the first sex scene is one of the funnier sex scenes I've seen on camera. This is before the whole pedophile angle, but it reminded me of the only scene I've seen from Showgirls, which is the sex scene in the pool with Kyle MacLachlan. We were just talking about that a couple episodes ago, or maybe last episode.
Very similar.
This is what we were talking about with the RoboCop episode.
Yeah, just last episode. Yeah, and maybe that's why it brought it up. But it's just like, it's such like a goofy, over the top sex scene. It's like hyper erotic, but like the way that it's shot, and it's like there's a thunderstorm and it's raining and there's like lightning and the music is like kind of sinister. It's like
it's camp.
It is camp. Yeah, it totally is. And then it's like, then they wake up the next day and they're like, oh, by the way, we're 15. It's like,
But
spoiler alert, but they're not.
Well, like, spoiler alert, they're obviously not. Like, that's the thing. Like, so my thought when they said that was, okay, I guess they're movie 15, right? Where, like, because movies are always casting, like, people in their, like, mid to late 20s as teens.
Right, well, and
so it's like, okay, and I guess that's why, like, Keanu buys it or whatever, because the movie is setting us up. They're wearing, like, teenagery clothing, I guess, so, like, maybe we're supposed to believe that these, like, very much adult women aren't, but, like, why are we here?
Well, I mean, also, the actresses obviously are older because we see, like, they're fully nude in the sex scene.
Yeah,
so it's like, we know as the audience, it's like, okay, these women obviously are not actually 15.
Well, I looked it up. Anna, what's her name?
Ana de Armas.
Yeah, like 27 when this movie
I think
was
it's
shot.
supposed to be pretty clear that they're not actually 15.
Yeah.
It's just something that, if you're threatened with, like, you have to kind of buy into it.
Well,
honestly.
they also like they don't present it as like, oh, we'll just tell the cops we're 15. Like they present it for most of the movie as like, we are like teenagers,
and they act like it.
And it's like, we know as the audience that the actresses obviously aren't, but the movie plays that so straight that until the end, when they tell you that they're actually in their early 20s, like, you don't know if in the movie they actually are 15 or not. You know?
That's the thing. Is like that we're just playing by their own rules, and it's like
that's the magic of cinema, baby.
Exactly, that's the point.
But doesn't that make like Keanu's character, like, why would he buy it at all? Like, that's what I don't get. Like, they were already like deceivers and shit. Like,
well, yeah, I mean, he obviously thought they were 21 or whatever.
Well, and that's
they don't give him any real evidence that they aren't.
So what?
Well, I love that it goes from,
like Ben said, the threat is enough.
Yeah, and I feel like at times in like the second act of this movie, it almost plays it up like feeling like a sort of twisted morality play, where in reality it's just pure sadism.
Yeah.
And I love that kind of twist. It's, you know, I
will say, like, it does present itself as like a morality play, but like, at least for me, this isn't one of those cases where like the whole time I'm like, no, like, Keanu told them no. They sexually assaulted him. Like, it is, like, if no means no, then they've raped him. Like, it's not a morality play. He is the victim here, no matter what.
Yeah.
You know, no matter how old they are. And, like, that's the thing about it, is, like, it's a position to put him in where he's trapped, but, like, even if the characters are 15, they still raped him. Like,
yeah.
And I don't think that's, at least for me, that the morality of the situation is never in question. But the film does treat it as such.
Sure. And the two girls try to make the most mileage out of the kind of
course,
the pedophile angle as they can. You know, they say they're gonna pull a Chris Hansen, you know,
to catch a predator, yeah.
And then they have the whole game show scene, which I find very funny.
Yeah,
where they have tied Keanu up and have put headphones on him, connected to his DJ set.
It's the funniest way to torture him, honestly.
Where it's playing like Merzbow as loud as possible. Just fucking pull steam in.
Right, but like he's just wearing headphones where he could just shake his head forward and they would come off. That felt lazy. Like it felt like almost funny lazy, but it didn't really land for me. Like why didn't they just like tie the headphones around his head or something?
You're thinking about it. You're thinking too much.
Yeah,
about
I mean,
No,
like
I'm just regular thinking about it.
He
Like
shakes them off, they put it back on. Like you're thinking about it too much.
if someone's playing I think that's just a simple mechanic. Like, it's just a very simple thing. They've put headphones on your ears to deafen you. The first thing literally any human would do is shake their head.
He doesn't have agency, though. He's tied up. Like, even if he does shake him off...
He can shake his head. Like,
they're gonna force it back on
Come on,
them.
Cleveland. Like, they would put the headphones back on him. They would...
Yeah, you sound like a CinemaSins
They
guy
would...
right now.
This is a CinemaSins thing.
what? No! This is not,
this
like...
is one... This is a cinema... This is a CinemaSins thing. Like... Come on, man. He's, like Ben said, he's tied up. They would just put the headphones back on him. They have tortured him previously by... He's got a surgery scar on one of his shoulders. He's recently healing from surgery.
Stabbed him with a fork.
Stabbed him with a fork till he passed out. Like, he's tied up. If he shakes his head... Yes, he could shake his head and the big DJ headphones would fall off. Yes. But then what?
They'd tie him on his head and that'd be funny. Right? He's already tied up. It's funnier. Like,
okay, so your problem with it is that they didn't turn it into a gag.
yeah.
Okay, that's
Because
fair.
It's like,
that's
it's
fair
like a half
enough. I
gag
guess
already. It's a half measure. Like take it to the nth degree.
I mean, I think
you just need more rope. There's plenty of budget for rope. It's a $10 million budget.
I think the gag is Keanu who keeps yelling, "I'm gonna go deaf! No, my ears! Ah!"
His reactions are very
so funny. Well, I mean, this scene leads into the hands down the best part of the movie. Even got Cleveland laughing.
Yeah.
Is Keanu's freak out.
His
Well,
monologue
before that, the other guy comes. The art appraiser comes, which is a very funny scene, too.
That is funny, yeah. They set him up early in the movie. He works with Keanu's wife, and he's coming to pick up her latest statue.
Like an art dealer.
Yeah, he's taking it to the gallery. Mm-hmm. She's having a show. And so he shows up while they're like torturing him and they hide him like, "Oh, we're Keanu's nieces or whatever. We're here shooting a music video."
And they go out to the back and the statue in the back is obviously vandalized. Like,
yes,
covered in tarp.
They've graffitied the hell out of it. I love it because they draw some dicks on it earlier in the movie, and after like Keanu like takes them and drops them off somewhere the first time.
Yeah, there's a whole scene where he after he quote convinces them to leave and like he gets all mad. He says, "I'll take you wherever you want, whatever." He takes them home or somewhere. And we have a whole scene of that where like he drives them off there and he drops them off and he comes back and he thinks everything is fine. And during that whole bit, like, we're just watching the events happen. There's nothing funny happening. And then, sure enough, like he gets back up at some point, and they come up behind him and they knock him out. And it's like, okay, so that was just a waste of our time. It's not really a subversion. Like, they could have done that at any time.
It's not a subversion, but
it's just a waste. It's a waste of screen time.
It's so Keanu feels like he's safe. He feels like, oh man, I had a real fucking shitty night. I got into a bad position, but well, I mean, I think it's worth it for gags like. During that whole time, we see him meticulously cleaning the penises that they drew off of his wife's sculpture. Yeah, and then later, when we see it later, they've taken the time to re-graffiti it. I think that's a funny gag.
Yeah,
I think that's
that
a funny
is very
gag.
funny.
I think it's a funny gag. And so yeah, the guy shows up, and they're sort of like sweet talking him and lying, but then he sees the sculpture. He's like, "What the fuck? What did you do?" And they try to seduce him as well. And we get. I thought it was for sure going to be the best line delivery in the movie until we got to Keanu's freak out later. But the fantastic line delivery, she like touches his hand. She's like, "It can be our little secret." And there's just like a beat where it pauses. He's like, "Bitch, you barking up the wrong fucking tree. I'm from Oakland, ho."
That shit was funny.
It's so funny.
Good.
It's so funny. Oh man. That turns into a whole thing. They steal his inhaler, Chekhov's asthma. They start smashing the sculpture.
And the dust from the sculpture.
Yeah, he gets worked up into a frenzy and starts having an asthma attack and slips and falls and kills himself by bashing his head. Whatever. But later we get to, yes, Keanu, after the game show thing where they have him tied to the chair and they're asking him questions like, how far will you have to go to pick up your kids from school because you're a pedophile? And the last question is like, what do you think is the best punishment for the crime of pedophilia? It's like going to prison and being raped every day, castration, or death. And they're like, the answer's death, so we're gonna kill you at sunrise. And that leads to Keanu just having a complete and total meltdown. Not even gonna try to do it justice of trying to describe what it is. I'm just gonna put in a full clip of that audio.
Yeah, it's very funny.
Right here.
Death? Death? You're gonna kill me. You're gonna fucking kill me. Why? Why? Because I fucked you? You fucked me. You fucked me. You came to my house. You came to me. I got you a car. I brought you your clothes. You took a fucking bubble bath. You wanted it. You wanted it. You came out to me. What was I supposed to do? You sucked my cock. You both fucking sucked my cock. It was free pizza. Free fucking pizza. It just shows up at my fucking door. What am I supposed to do? We're flight attendants. Come on, fuck us. No one will know. Come on, fuck us. Oh, twosomes, threesomes. It doesn't matter. Starfish, husbands. You don't give a fuck. You'll just fuck anything. You'll just fuck anything. Well, you lied to me. I'm trying to help you. I let you in. I was a good guy. I'm a good father. And you just fucking fucked me? What? Now you're gonna kill me? You're gonna kill me? Why? Why? You should fuck me? What the fuck? Fuck, this is fucking insane!
So... incredible.
It's great. It's great.
Just truly special.
Like, one of my, like, regardless how I feel about the rest of this movie, like, truly one of my favorite on-screen moments in a film that I've seen in a very, very long time.
It's Keanu Reeves at his most deranged. He's like channeling like most deranged of Nick Cage.
Yeah, you compared it to a Nick Cage performance earlier, and it really is. And what's great about that is, and honestly, Keanu's performance in this whole movie is, I feel like we really get to see a side of Keanu that we don't typically see in a lot of his other roles.
Yeah.
You know, with stuff like The Matrix and John Wick, you know, he's very cool and quiet and sort of soft-spoken and very serious, you know. And he gets a couple of fantastic opportunities to just, like, really, really fucking ham it up in this. And I think that's the best thing about this movie, is an opportunity for Keanu to, like, really let it out.
Be weird.
See, and here's the thing about Keanu. I think unlike Nick Cage, I personally don't think Keanu is that great of an actor. But
I don't either.
What he lacks in acting skill, he makes up for in charisma.
And
100%.
presence. Yeah.
You know, and like the charisma comes out in this movie.
It took me a long time to get to that point with Keanu, but that is one of the things I really appreciate about him, because I agree with you. I don't think he's a very good actor. I don't think he's ever been a very good actor.
I think he's a great, action actor. I think
I think his charisma.
He's got great...
And he's great at being, serious and angry, and...
He's got great on-screen presence, and also he's just one of those people that, as a person, off camera... he just seems like the best person.
Yeah.
And
very
I think
charismatic, likable guy.
Yeah, and charismatic in a way that a lot of his characters are not allowed to be, And I think that in the beginning of this movie too, and one of the things I really like about the sort of setup of his picture perfect life with his family is some of the over the top fun dad Keanu stuff he gets to do. It reminds me of that clip of him at whatever award show where he's like, "Don't you guys just love movies? Man, I love movies. I love making movies." That clip is so fun and wholesome, and I feel like the beginning of this movie is that's the Keanu we're getting. Yeah. It feels like we're getting some of
for sure.
Pure, earnest, sincere, real Keanu, not actor Keanu. And then later you get the Nick Cage performance too. So it's you really get it all. And Keanu
was super well used in this movie.
This is my favorite. He's my
great stuff with
he's my favorite part of this movie.
Same.
I mean,
I don't think this movie would be half as good as it is. Without him.
And I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what other actor you would put in his place for you to be able to get a kind of similar effect. I mean, Nick Cage probably.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think Nick Cage could do this well.
Yeah. Or maybe Willem Dafoe.
Yeah, maybe. He's a little too old.
He's a little old for it.
He's a little too old.
I see that kind of same sort of presence.
Yeah. I can see that.
Manic energy at times.
But yeah, man, Keanu's great in this movie. Like I said earlier, everybody's great in this movie. Ana de Armas is really good. I gotta look up that other actress's name. It's Lorenza Izzo.
Yeah.
Who plays Genesis. She's really good too. The two of them are incredible. Really, really good. And sort of in contrast to Keanu, I think their performances are both genuinely good. Keanu is sort of like Nick Cage and ends up being good by fun, but just by sheer force of his presence.
Yeah, and I think on my first viewing of this, and part of the reason I picked this movie for the podcast is it separates itself from general bad movies because it is very off the rails and memorable in a much different way than typical bad movies.
I mean, I don't think this movie whether you like this movie or not, I don't think this movie is really a bad movie. I think the reason that it has such a low score on everything is because it makes people uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is. Let me ask you a question,
I also think, again, they don't introduce really any stakes until halfway into the film. So I think a lot of people would have been bored, like myself.
There's a lot of build-up. When did you first see this movie, Ben?
About 6 months ago.
Oh, recently.
I saw it and was immediately, I gotta pick this up on the podcast. Because, this is a movie I feel needs to be talked about. Because it's so weird and uncomfortable, but also very funny and campy. And kind of midnight movie-esque.
The reason I asked when you first saw this is because it came out in 2015, which would have been when we were in college, and at least when the tables sort of start to turn the next morning in this movie, it reminded me a lot of your senior thesis film in college. Yeah, and that's why I was wondering if you had seen this when it first came out and it was an inspiration for that. I hadn't,
but I would have definitely taken influence from it.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely goes in a different direction, but your film was about a family that just sort of forces their way into this random guy's house and they just live there now and he can't get them out.
Yeah.
That's the direction that I thought the movie was going before it turned into funny games. Like that, especially that scene where he goes into the kitchen and they're making breakfast and stuff, and like the one girl's like, "I haven't been home in 4 years," you know. I was like, oh, they just sort of like go find random guys, seduce them, and then just move into their house. Like I thought that's the direction that it was going. So that's why I asked.
Yeah, they definitely play that up in a fun way.
Yeah. I mean, it becomes not that pretty quickly, but I do like that kind of setup. I think that would have been a funny angle.
The turning point for me in this movie, and the reason I picked it, was I got to the final scene of this movie where Keanu is rolled into a grave, you know.
Into a grave in his backyard that they've dug for him, yeah.
And they just bury him up to his neck. And his fucking reaction to that is one of the
I've seen
funniest
gifs of it,
performance.
like him like up to his neck, like you know, screaming and stuff.
It's like a Wicker Man level performance, I feel like.
Yeah. It is kind of similar. Not the bees sort of deal, but it goes on for way longer. Well, yeah, they reveal to him, it's like, no, we're not gonna kill you, you dumb fucking asshole, and also we're 22, you know. They turn it into a morality thing where they're like, you know, I like how they present it almost like it's like a curse. They're like, you said you didn't say no, so now we have to go on and do it to somebody else. It's like the first guy that they come to who doesn't allow himself to be seduced by them, it breaks the curse and they disappear into the...
See, that felt very Funny Games to me, in that, like, it's very much... They're giving obviously fake names, Peter and Paul, for example, in Funny Games.
Right.
And, like, they're playing up, like, it doesn't matter what the truth actually is. We're not going to really tell you the truth.
Right.
You know? Like, that, to me, just felt like, they're just fucking telling him whatever to torture him.
Well, also, like, it's equally disingenuous because they're like, you still said yes. Every guy always says yes. No one has said no yet. It's like... But he did say no. He said no several times. You know?
Yeah.
He said he kept like trying to pull off their advances. Like he did say no. But the funny how they end it with they post a video they took of him having sex with, or being raped by Ana de Armas, and post it on his Facebook, and then they just put it the phone in the dirt so he can watch it as it's playing out, and like all of his friends on Facebook are just commenting to be like, this is disgusting, unfriended. My kids can see this. Is this some kind of sick joke? And it's so funny because at the bottom there's like 2 big buttons that are not on actual Facebook, but it's like and delete, and he manages to worm one of his hands out of the dirt and reaches over to press delete and accidentally hits like,
and it falls over.
It's so fucking stupid, but it's such a good joke. It's a really good joke. And honestly, I think the final joke of the film is pretty funny too, where like it does the same camera tracking shot that goes through the whole house, takes the same route. We see how vandalized it is. Wife and kids show up. They walk in, they see how destroyed the house is and what awful shape it is. And one of the kids just like, Dad had a party, huh? It just cuts to
It's so good.
Well, because they joke about at the beginning of the movie when they're the kids and the mom are going off. It's like, oh yeah, Dad's gonna have a big party tonight, and all of his friends are gonna come over, and they're gonna get drunk and stuff. And so they're joking about it. So they come home and they think that that's just actually what happened.
The vandalism on all the portraits is really juvenile and hilarious.
Like, disgusting.
They draw like a Nazi armband on Keanu on one of them, and dicks aplenty.
They also draw like tits on like his daughter, like his young daughter. Like it's vile, but it is really juvenile shit.
And that's the thing, like, I feel like that matches the core of this movie. It's juvenile and mean-spirited and cruel.
And also, like, even if they're not actually teenagers, like, 22-year-olds are fucking juvenile, too. 22-year-olds are still basically kids.
I mean, there's just plenty of people out there who are just juvenile at any age, you know?
Arrested Development.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think the cruelty of it, you know, is just super played up here.
Yeah.
And, you know, in that respect, I understand why people wouldn't like it, because this movie is very mean-spirited.
Extremely.
You know, very
cynical,
cruel. Yeah.
So what?
Cynical, even.
Cynical,
I
yeah,
would say.
totally.
I think the ending is really... Because I love the bit where he misses the pressing the button and all that stuff, but, like, then they just leave, and that's it.
They take the dog.
And they take the dog, and...
Yep. Off to do it to some other hapless schmuck.
Else. Off they go. And it's like, I don't know, I felt like if they raped Keanu, if, like, all the rest of it, like, I would have gotten more entertainment. Because if they're going for the juvenile shit, they're trying to entertain, right? Like, I would have gotten more out of them getting some kind of comeuppance, you know, or something. Personally.
I don't really want that, though. Like, I look at this in comparison to something like The Strangers again, where, like, The Strangers is pure violence, where this is more psychological torture. And, like, looking back on it, like, I think, like, this is, in a lot of ways, experientially worse than just being stabbed to death really quickly.
Yeah.
You know, like...
Well, I mean, they have ruined his life.
Yeah. Yeah, and...
Like, there's no way his marriage survives this, you know?
No, and
his wife's getting custody of them kids.
Yeah, and in that respect, I find it much more disturbing in a way, and, you know, cruel.
But, like, his wife finds him, like, assumedly, like, buried in the dirt, still alive. Like, clearly, like, he didn't consent to that. Like, clearly he was, like, in a position where he got fucked over. He wouldn't destroy his own house. Like, it's really obvious that, like, he didn't do it. So, like, if his wife is, like, reasonable and rational, then she would understand that, like, oh, my husband has been a victim of these horrible events.
Yeah.
Because he was a victim of those horrible events, and it's all
Well,
really
I mean, it
obvious
depends
clear.
on how much she believes what he says. Because, I mean, if she comes home, finds that, and sees on Facebook a video of him fucking another woman, and he's like, no, I didn't want to, actually. Like, even though that is the case... Like, she's probably not going to believe
tied up in the
That's
video.
partially why...
Kink shit. You
The
never been tied up in bed,
the
Cleve?
final...
Well, on top of all the other things.
I feel like that's why the final line hits more. Is because, like, if it's played as drunken debauchery, and, like, this ended with him, you know, buried up to his neck after a wild
party.
night of drunken debauchery, like,
Yeah.
it's way less justifiable. And if that's kind of the tone going into it, where you view this from...
Yeah, like, all of her art, they spend all the time smashing up all of her art. Like, the house is, like, totally destroyed.
I will say the art is pretty funny, because...
it's all very phallic.
It's very Antonio Gaudi influence, because she's Spanish. Mm-hmm. But it is, like you said, very phallic, all of it.
I like
Just
it.
a lot of weird boner looking things.
There's this one, like, big, like, upside down vase that just looks like a butt plug, and, like, he keeps trying to, like, when they're out of the room, like, bump into the shelf to get it to knock on the floor. We find out later, because that's where he keeps his gun, inside the butt plugs, the butt plug vase.
Why? Who cares?
Why? It's such a
Don't
weird
think about it.
fucking
You're not supposed to think. Like,
Yeah, I just thought it was fun. That's right. I'm not thinking
funny.
about it. I thought it was funny. Again, I think you're thinking about it too much.
I guess the last thing I wanted to
I
talk
think
about
so.
very briefly is after her assistant dies, you know, from, you know, having an asthma attack and falling and dying.
Smashing his
they
head.
paper mache
Oh yes, that was a pretty fun gag. They take the time to paper mache him and put him in the truck.
Yeah, in his own truck.
Yeah, they have like a back and forth. Like while they're putting him in the truck, they're like, do you think such and so and so is gonna be able to get rid of this? And they're like, yeah, he's like a magician. He can make anything disappear.
Yeah, that was weird to me. I didn't really get that.
Yeah,
it almost felt like
justify some shit that didn't need to be justified.
It almost felt like it was ADR'd in later, because I don't think in any of that you can really clearly see their mouths. Is the implication that they have like an accomplice who's like helping them who shows up and removes the bodies?
The movie doesn't really work if there's also a dead body there. Because like once again, Keanu Reeves, that's just one more like that's the biggest flag indicating that.
But
Keanu
I mean,
Reeves
I would assume they stole
that they drove
well
away in the truck.
They drove.
Yeah.
You know what? Then, but like he, it just to me, it just
sure. I mean,
planning.
You're not wrong, and this movie is a little sloppy on that.
Yeah, it's ultimately
it doesn't care.
It's ultimately not.
But I don't think that's the point of the movie. At the same time, you know, like the point of the movie isn't to explain away all of this shit.
Yeah. You said you had something else, Cleve?
Yeah. Heel turn. I liked Knock at the Cabin more. That's my heel turn.
That is surprising.
Yeah,
that is.
I think that fucking classic John Batista delivered a pretty solid performance at Knock in the Cabin. I didn't like Knock in the Cabin very much, but there were some moments in that movie that I thought were kind of fun. You know what's aged on me all right?
I think the dialogue in this movie is way better than Knock at the Cabin.
Yeah, I agree.
I think it's a much better written film.
Yeah, I find that Knock in the Cabin was at least fake, bad, whatever, sincere, at least. I do think that Knock at the Cabin was trying. And I think that this was trying to be Tommy Wiseau, and I think that I find that, like,
I don't
trying
think
to be...
so.
You literally were saying Tommy Wiseau earlier, but, my point is...
It's camp, but, like, it's not trying to be bad. It has a camp element.
I think it is trying to be bad.
There's a distinction.
And I find that cynical. Like, I think, I find that like that whole idea of like, oh, don't worry about it, like we don't really care, it can be funny, like it can be that laissez-faire kind of thing, but I don't know, I kind of felt left wondering like, okay, why do I give a shit at all by the end of this movie? And I didn't, and it's okay if you do, it's okay. Like again, I think that it's great that this movie exists and it's fine, but I didn't like it. I like Cabin. I somehow, for whatever reason, like Knock at the Cabin more.
All right, slap a rating on it.
2.
Okay.
I like those moments. I loved Keanu Reeves' rant, and I loved the other guy's rant, and the actors were fine. But overall, I was super bored for the first half, and that did two setups, and the payoff was cute, but I don't know. I was kind of hoping for more.
All right, Ben.
Look, here's the thing. If you took Keanu Reeves out of this, and you took Eli Roth out of this, or one or the other, I don't think this movie would work. The fact that it's both of them is like the perfect storm to make this, like, for me, a camp classic. I feel like part of this movie almost requires, like, an understanding of stuff like funny games to really appreciate. But I find it to be a blast. It's so mean-spirited and cruel, but I find it like a perfect midnight movie. This is a 4 out of 5 to me. This is so stupid and juvenile, but hilarious and amazing.
Yeah, it's a similar thing to the Greasy Strangler, like I said. Like I probably had more fun watching this than I did the Greasy Strangler. I'll give it that. It's a deeply uncomfortable film.
I think the Greasy Strangler. Sorry, it's your rating.
Yeah, you've said your piece.
That's all right.
I think it's a pretty unsettling film. But like I do think that's the point. I think it's got pretty clear intent in what it's trying to do. And I also do think it has a lot of really funny moments, and like the performances are all great in their own different ways. And so there's definitely that. This is not a film that I would readily recommend to most people. I think you have to kind of be willing to meet it on its own level.
Yeah.
And even so, you still might not enjoy it, but it was a fucking experience, man. And I think I had a good time. I think I'm gonna give it a 3.5 out of 5.
Sure.
Well, that gives Knock Knock an average of 3.2 out of 5. General recommendation with caveats.
Yeah, I would say
You could end up like Cleveland.
Yeah, to me, there were when Ben picked this. I think it's in the podcast when Ben said, hey, we're going to do Knock Knock by Eli Roth. You and I, Tease, were like, never heard of it. Didn't know Eli Roth did a movie in 2015.
Yeah.
And I looked up I was very curious, so I looked up like the budget versus the returns on this movie, and the budget was $10 million, and it made 6.3 at the box office. And to me, that all makes sense.
I mean, I would have to know how many theaters it was in. I feel like there's no way this got.
I definitely didn't hear about this movie when it.
Yeah, I feel like this out. Got a super limited theatrical.
I
release.
like Eli Roth. I probably would have seen this in the theaters if I knew about it.
Yeah, I mean, hey, this one totally went under my radar. This one came out. Did this come out pre or post Green Inferno?
Post Green.
This is after Green Inferno.
Yeah. I feel like Green Inferno was a bit of a disaster.
Yeah.
In terms of it got a very wide release and kind of bombed critically and commercially.
Yeah.
So this one was more quietly dropped.
Green Inferno is not a very good movie.
No, I think this is much better than Green Inferno.
I agree. Equally mean-spirited, though.
Yes, yeah, equally mean-spirited in much different ways.
Anyway, next week we're back to new movies, and it's time for Cocaine Bear, I guess.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
What
I
if
feel like
a bear had cocaine?
What if a bear had cocaine? Will we find it bearable or unbearable? Be ready to hear that joke again next week, folks.
Can we tolerate this movie?
There it is. Man, we were talking about it a little bit before we hit record, but the more I see the trailers and marketing for this movie, the more I think that it's gonna be a stinker.
I'm pretty trepidatious myself.
When I heard it announced, I was like, "Fucking Cocaine Bear!" It sounded like a fucking it sounded like a fucking Canon film or like a Full Moon Pictures or something. But it looks like it's trying to be too kooky.
I think it's the same problem. It feels like it's going to be cynical. Like it's not going to be sincere.
If there's ever a movie I wish Eli Roth directed,
oh man, Eli Roth would be perfect for Cocaine Bear.
Yeah. It's just the perfect blend of juvenile, sleazy exploitation, where, like, I think Elizabeth Banks is directing this, and, like, that makes me a little nervous.
That can't be right, can it?
Yeah, bro, she's directing this.
I'm looking it up right now. That can't be right.
Look, all I want from Cocaine Bear is a
is
lot of
Elizabeth
blood
Banks.
and a lot of gore.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Give me a comical level of blood and guts, and I'll be on board. You know?
Yeah.
I'm
so,
easy to please.
We'll see. The previews have definitely got me going in a little cynical, but I'm willing to be wrong.
I hope so. I hope I am.
Yeah. Come back next week for Cocaine Bear. But stick around for a sponsor.
Yep. All right, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. The shelf, it glows.
The shelf speaks.
The shelf, it speaks into our minds. And it says, this week was brought to you by the Bastard Goose. Beware the goose. He's a bastard. Is that the sequel to Cocaine Bear?
The Bastard Goose.
Bastard Goose? That's, feels like it.
That's an idea. Let's get writing.
Let's get
writing.
Yeah.
I did hear that Cocaine Bear was fully written on spec, so somebody had some faith in it. So let's get the Bastard Goose written.
There we go.
And sent off to Hollywood tomorrow.
Send that to New Line pronto.
All right.
Get Universal on the phone. Here comes the Bastard Goose.
All right. Well, once again, the shelf has been satiated.
All right. Well, to satiate us, dear listeners, we require a tribute of a 5-star... A 5-star sucking. No,
5-star sucking.
A 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. I don't know how Spotify does their rate. Whatever. 5 stars. That's how you feel about this show.
6 if they allow it.
If they allow it, yeah. If it's out of 10, then definitely give it more than 5.
At least 6.
At least 6 or 7, please. You can also, if you really like the show, I mean, if you really like it, you can support us on Patreon at patreon.com/podpeoplepod. Shout out to our honorary pod boys, Sam Simon and Zach Confer. We know that they really like the show because
they're still here.
Because they support us on Patreon for some reason.
All the love.
So you can follow us on Twitter at podpeoplepod and at letterboxd.com/podpeoplepod, where you'll find a list of all the films we've talked about on the show with our average ratings and links to those reviews. I'm on Twitter at somespookysnake and streaming on Twitch, twitch.tv/somespookysnake.
Spooky Saturdays.
Spooky Saturdays.
You're working through Resident
Evil 7 currently. I don't know.
You will beat the father.
By the time this episode comes out, I'm hoping that I will have beaten the Chainsaw Man. Or maybe that's happening this weekend. I don't know. Follow me on Twitch to figure out when I'm streaming.
I'm on Twitter at Mr. Sheets.
And I'm not on Twitter.
Got him.
You can find my work on
Suck it, Elon.
dreadxp.com and also the DreadXP Discord. We're all hanging out and doing movie nights over there from time to time. Feel free to pop on by and say hello. That's it from me.
Well, I didn't really have a way out for this one.
If we could just end it without any resolution.
Bitch! You barking up the wrong tree!
I'm from Oakland, though.